The run game is still very prevalent, and those guys have a huge role. And having played offensive line and coached offensive line for all those years, now coaching the Cowboy backs, it is a very selfless position. I mean, we're like offensive linemen with eligible numbers at times in the game. I mean, so you got to put your ego on the shelf, and you got to come to work every day and block, catch a ball, block, catch a ball. I mean, it's just it is what it is. But I've been trying to tell kids in recruiting, like, if you want to play and you want to play a lot, you can't hurt steel. So if you want to play a lot, then this offense is huge because we're constantly on the field. There's a difference between offenses saying they use a tight end and ones that don't. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we definitely use that position, and we use it in lots of different ways. So in recruiting-wise, trying to get kids to see what we're doing.
Talking about recruiting a little bit, I know we can't say names as far as like decommitments or commitments, but what do you think are some of the challenges that you have in recruiting to OSU, and maybe not necessarily a blue blood school when it comes to tight ends? You obviously have Brandon Pettigrew and some of those other guys.
Two things. Number one, recruiting is not what it used to be. Like a lot of things, right? I mean, it's evolved, it's changed. There's lots of other things that go into it now. A lot of other entities that aren't just the high school coach anymore. You're talking about street agents. You're talking about trainers. You're talking about all these different recruiting services. These kids have all these different people in their ear, and quite frankly, I mean, it's ever changing. It's constantly changing, day in, day out, whichever the wind blows. And my philosophy here at Oklahoma State is that I want guys that want to be here. I'm looking for the guys that are the right fit. I want guys who want to be here at the end of the day. Because you can't twist a kid's arm. You can't make them want to be here. You can't sweet talk them into it. Because if you do that, when they get here, they're like, this isn't anything you sold me. And they're like, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Right? I mean, so I'm honest. I'm upfront with kids. And you want kids that want to be here. So, Coach, talk to me about X's and O's. Talk to me about how you're going to use me. Instead of like, how many uniform options do you have? How many helmets do you wear? Let's not talk about superficial things. Let's talk about meat and potatoes. Let's get down to the bare bones. How am I going to play in this system? What do you see that as? What can I study? What do you have? What I want to study? I mean, those are the recruiting questions. Those are the kind of questions you want mom and dad to ask you, and you want kids to ask you, and you want, please come on. I want those kids. I don't want the kids you got to chase. The kids you got to talk them into being here, talk them into that. No, man, I want kids that want to be here.
How important is it for somebody like Blake Jarwin to have success in the NFL, to be able to point to him and say, look, that's a thing that can happen?
I think that's huge. I mean, all that helps you, and his story is an unbelievable story. And it gives kids hope out there, but also it shows you the progress that kids make in this program. And then it goes on to have success at the NFL level. I hope he's a Billy Badger. I hope he has a 10-year career in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he has that ability because he works for everything he's got. He's very humble, and he'll just, if he gets with the team, I hope he just sticks with the Cowboys. I hope that's awesome. And it sounds like everything's going good for him. But absolutely, that parlays into recruiting here. I want kids to understand that, dude, if I go to Oklahoma State, I got a shot to get to the next level because of what Coach Mack does and how they use me and the coaching, and that I want that. And kids, kids nowadays, I mean, that's a big part of what they want as well. Right. So I'm trying to sell that. Hey, you come here, you're on the field, you're playing, you're putting film out there that they can see what you're doing. Versus offenses that never use a tight end, and you're standing over there twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah.
So
they had a few years back, they had a late decommitment, and kind of led to Marcus Keys joining OSU. I think it was on signing day or like 2 days before signing day. Kind of similar situation last cycle with Darrin Odom. What can you say about what do you expect from Odom? Maybe as a freshman or just in his career.
Yeah. There's a reason why I've lost a lot of my hair. I'm bald. Coaching and recruiting 17, 18-year-olds, awesome. Barron was a kid that, I mean, they came to camp my very first year. They came to camp, and I stayed in touch with them. They came to camp the second year, and the thing I always appreciated about Barron, I mean, he was a hard worker. I'm privy to small town kids. I haven't come from Montana State, recruited the state of Montana. I mean, it's small town Americana, man. I recruit a lot of kids like that. And so the thing that, to me, that I love about small town kids is their work ethic. They're multi-sport athletes. The kid he's a 4-sport athlete. That's unheard of anymore. And, they're a coaching family. The Odoms are a coaching family. There was lots of things I loved about him. There was other kids that, that just said, okay, hey, I just couldn't pull the trigger. And so I stayed in touch with him, and he was solid on Rice, and I felt like that was a good spot for him at the time. And obviously things changed for us rapidly, and so when they change and you're down to the 72 hours, there's just not a lot of time. And so honestly, I was up front with him. I told him what the situation was, and it was in the 9th hour, and I said, hey, look, this is what's going on. I said, if we make a change, would you pull the trigger right now? And he said, Coach, because it's you and because it's Oklahoma State, yes. If it was anybody else, no, I'd stick with Rice. And so, because that's where I want to be, and that's the school I wanted to play for and come. So that's why we were able to get him in the 9th hour. But he's done a phenomenal job here, just being here for summer conditioning. A lot of times you don't really know with small town guys because he's never been in the weight room. He's been playing sports. I said, how do you play baseball and track at the same time? He's like, Coach, they don't schedule track meets on baseball day, on game days. And he said, we have like 5 or 6 guys who are the same way. I mean, that is the slice of a small town for you, right? They just make it happen for the kids. And so he's done a great job in the weight room. I foresee redshirting him this fall. I think it's hard for freshmen to come in and just plug right in and go. He's already put on 12 to 15 pounds just in the month he's been here. I look at him the other day, I'm like, man, body by glass right there. But I mean, the other part that really, I think at the end, I was partial to Darrin is because I saw Blake. I saw Blake in him. And Blake's story and what he did here and how he, came, walked on, paid his way, paid his dues. At some point in time, somebody might have said that kid was a scholarship kid coming out of high school. But it took him those couple years to finally get to that point. Whereas I felt like Darrin, like, hey man, I see you as the Blake Jarwin type, so I'm good with all those intangible things that I think will make you great. So I mean, again, he wanted to be here.